There are currently 24 missing exotic armor pieces from Destiny 1 that haven't yet made it into Destiny 2, and today I'm sharing my ideas on how I would personally rework them to fit into the ever-evolving Destiny 2 sandbox, because a large majority of these exotics, with the exception of a few iconic outliers, need considerable changes to bring them up to par with the exotics we're used to getting in Destiny 2 today. Interestingly, it's actually been quite a while since any exotic armor from Destiny 1 has been reprised into Destiny 2, with the last piece being the Warlock Exotic gloves Nothing Manacles during Season of the Lost in the year of Beyond Light. And this is probably because the exotic weapons are a lot more iconic. But rest assured, there's plenty of room for imagination with the armor, and I assure you I've certainly cooked up some bangers today. So without further ado, let's begin with Titans and Empyrean Bellicose. Empyrean Bellicose is an exotic helmet with the main perk Anti-Grav Thrusters, which states that aiming weapons while in the air will hold you in place for a short time. And given that we already have this exotic in the form of Wings of Sacred Dawn on Warlock, what can we do to differentiate it? Well, my idea is to make it a strand-themed exotic with the following description. Aiming weapons while in the air will hold you in place for a short time. Scoring a kill while Anti-Grav Thrusters is active causes you to enter Mind Flight, a new strand state of traversal, forcing you into third person and letting you freely fly around for a brief period. Weapon multi-kills while in Mind Flight extend its duration and grant Woven Mail. So my idea for this is to really lean into the airborne gameplay loop with a cool new custom strand-based flight system that looks kinda similar to when you are suspended, of course without the drawbacks. And in my head, I want this to look similar to how flying characters in Marvel rivals like Iron Man operate, a swift and fluid flight system that feels just fast enough so that you keep a decent amount of agility and are still able to evade enemy fire, and the Woven Mail would only help with the survivability. Up next is Helm of Inmost Light, another exotic helmet with the main perk Recklessness, which states that it provides death from above and headstrong for Fist of Havoc. And you may be wondering what this means, so let me quickly catch you up. In Destiny 1, subclasses worked a little differently to how they do now, where the main sort of aspects, I suppose you could call them, were selectable nodes on a skill tree. And in the context of Helm of Inmost Light, Death from Above gave you the unique ability to aim your Fist of Havoc while airborne, which these days has become the Ballistic Slam melee ability, and Headstrong increased the leap distance when casting your Fist of Havoc while grounded. And a common theme with a lot of exotic armor in Destiny 1 was to grant you these subclass nodes for free, letting you select other ones while still benefiting from the ones given by the exotic you are wearing. For Destiny 2, in a similar fashion, you could make the argument that this exotic should grant you an arc aspect like Knockout for free, letting you run both Storm's Keep and Touch of Thunder, for example. But I think this is a bit creatively bankrupt, so I won't be taking this approach with any upcoming exotics, despite how fun that might sound. So instead, my idea for Helm of Inmost Light is as follows. Converts Fist of Havoc into a one-off super just like in Destiny 1 that deals moderate to high damage and blinds on contact. But to make it different than Thunder Crash, I would also give it the secondary benefit where, upon exiting Fist of Havoc, you and any nearby allies receive the Hurricane's Blessing, where for 15 seconds you generate Bolt Charge passively over time and your weapons can discharge maximum Bolt Charge. The rate at which you gain Bolt Charge with Hurricane's Blessing would be identical to that of a Storm's Keep barricade, so essentially this super deals a chunk of damage initially, then effectively grants you and your fire team an invisible Storm's Keep barricade for 15 seconds, of course without the need for the barricade itself. But don't let that stop you doubling up with both Hurricane's Blessing and a Storm's Keep barricade. Next is yet another exotic helmet known as the Glass House. This helmet made it so Blessing and Weapons of Light lasted longer, but given that Helm of Saint 14 currently grants Weapons of Light and effectively Blessing of Light in the form of Void Overshield it provides, this exotic will need a few changes. So my proposed rework would make it so casting a Void Super grants you and nearby allies a full Void Overshield and overrides weapons to apply weakening rounds for 15 seconds, regardless of element. And further to that, having a neutral element that behaves like the artifact perk Maligned Harvest would also be good, where rapidly applying Volatile causes your next source of void weapon damage to create a weakening burst. In my head, this seems like quite a nice way of giving the team access to an extended period of debuffing while also granting some extra damage resistance and health with the Void Overshield, perfect to pair with Twilight Arsenal or good old-fashioned Bubble. Next we have the Taikonaut, which is actually a real-life term used to describe Chinese astronauts. But back to Destiny, this is an exotic helmet which states that all rocket launchers gain tracking, radar remains visible while zooming with heavy weapons, and heavy ammo drops more often, which to be fair is already a pretty solid basis for a niche utility exotic, so my version would read like so. All your rockets gain tracking, firing a rocket grants rocket tracking and cluster bombs to nearby allies, so it's almost a one-to-one recreation minus the increased heavy ammo drops, but with the added bonus of giving your team a slight boost in damage and tracking. Perfect for the player running Galahorn because now they provide both Wolfpack rounds and cluster bombs to nearby allies. Finally, Finally, moving away from exotic helmets, we next have Immolation Fists, a bulky pair of exotic gauntlets which grant the explosive Pious subclass node for free. This node made it so your Hammer of Soul final blows caused explosions, and actually the VFX for these explosions is identical to that of ignitions in Destiny 2, but let's not get too carried away. How should we reinvent this chunky set of gloves? Well, my idea for the rework is to actually shift the focus away from the Hammer of Soul Super and into the Hammer Strike melee instead, that reads like so. Your Hammer Strike melee ability is enhanced. Hammer Strike deals double damage, and scoring a kill with Hammer Strike releases a cluster of magma blobs that deal damage and apply Scorch. Causing an ignition fully refunds Hammer Strike energy. So basically, I want this exotic to be almost a specialized solar variant of Peregrine Greaves, where your Hammer Strike melee is the one true focus and is enhanced in various ways. The blobs would look similar to those from the Touch of Flame solar grenades, and ignitions giving back the full melee charge would help with being able to spam it over and over. Next is another pair of exotic gauntlets, Ruin Wings, which state that heavy ammo drops more often and contains more ammo in each drop. And to make this exotic work in the current day and age, I actually want to intertwine it with the new heavy ammo meter that was shown off in the Edge of Fate reveal footage, because my version of Ruin Wings would state your heavy ammo meter gains twice as much progress from final blows, and every heavy ammo finder brick you collect is also double size. And because we have heavy ammo scout mods, this exotic would act as a nice alternative to Aeons, where the Titan wearing it would be spawning finder bricks twice as often, giving the team a much better overall ammo economy in things like raids, dungeons, or Grandmaster Nightfalls. But let me know if you think this is too overpowered down in the comments below. Yet another pair of missing exotic gauntlets, we next have the Thagamizers. This exotic granted you the Striker subclass node Amplify, which gave you bonus super energy on arc melee kills and granted you a second melee charge. So for Destiny 2, I want to keep the original spirit of giving you more ability charges. Therefore, my version would read, while running the Striker subclass grants 2 additional charges for your grenade, melee, and class ability. So now you have 3 of each when running this exotic, which could mean 3 pulse grenades, 3 thunderclaps, and 3 Stormskeep barricades, which could be a super fun neutral game alternative to Insurmountable Skullfort or Heart of Inmost Light, for example. Finally, leaving the best till last, we have Twilight Garrison, possibly the most iconic exotic armor piece in all of Destiny, and it simply gave Titans the ability to perform an airborne evade, almost identical to current day Icarus Dash, which gave rise to the hallmark movement tech in Destiny 1, Titan Skating, which is still super satisfying to perform to this very day. Though unfortunately, Twilight Garrison is one of those exotics that I doubt will ever make its return to Destiny 2, but if by some miracle it does, no changes are needed. Bring it back 1-to-1 from the original. And permission to speak plainly, I don't even think it'll be that good, but to be honest, that's okay, because its legacy is far more defining than its actual exotic perks. So please Bungie, give us Titan mains what we've always wanted for ever so long. That about does it for Titans, so now let's tackle the Hunters, starting with Acleophage Symbiote. Acleophage Symbiote is an exotic helmet that straight up gives you a 4th shot of your Golden Gun Super, which if I remember correctly was a rather popular choice in PvP. For PvE, not so much, since Celestial Nighthawk also existed in this game, and furthermore, Golden Gun in Destiny 1 was not able to hit crits either, so the damage wasn't particularly flattering. So for Destiny 2, how should we change this exotic? Well, I actually think the 4th shot should translate over, but of course with a unique Destiny 2 twist. So my version states that your Marksman Golden Gun receives a 4th shot that deals massively increased damage, and the damage increase in question would simply come from the line 'em up bonus that's intrinsic to Marksman Goldie. Because if you weren't already aware, each consecutive precision hit with Marksman Goldie gains increased damage, 45% for the 2nd shot and 90% for the 3rd shot. So it kinda makes sense for the 4th shot to deal 180% increased damage, right? Estimating the damage would put the 4th shot at around 270,000 damage, giving it a total damage of around 700,000, at least when considering the scaling versus Carl, which truth be told might be a little too overpowered, but I think it's a fun idea regardless. Plus, each precision hit also spawns 2 orbs of power, so having Goldie create 8 orbs rather than 6 would also be a nice added bonus. Next is the ATS-8 Arachnid, a rather unique hunter helmet with a rather underwhelming exotic perk, Arachnid Sensorium, which simply made it so your Golden Gun zooms in for accuracy when aimed. So this exotic requires a complete rework in my opinion. My version reads as follows: Deadshot Golden Gun final blows cause targets to ignite, refunds Deadshot Golden Gun energy when your super ends, and Solar Grenade final blows grant a moderate amount of super energy. So basically, I want this to be like one of the many super regen focused exotics like Storm Dancer's Brace, Shards of Galanor, or Skull of Dire Ahamkara, with enough kills giving you a maximum 50% Deadshot energy back. I also specified that Deadshot kills cause targets to ignite so that you aren't forced to run Ember of Combustion, because if you didn't know, that's how you get bullets back when getting kills in Super. You need some way of making the Golden Gun shots cause ignitions because Deadshot intrinsically refunds stuns them if this happens, and Ember of Combustion does this just fine, but it does take away some fragment freedom, which is why I've given Deadshot intrinsic ignitions with this rework to solve that problem. Moving on, we have the Mask of the Third Man Exotic Helmet. It has the main perk Unstable Current, which states that Arc Blade attacks use less super energy, and in Destiny 2 we essentially already have this exotic in the form of Raiden Flux paired with Arc Staff, so it's going to need a few tweaks in order to adequately differentiate it. My version is basically a total rework that reads like so. Arc Staff hits cause a lightning strike to occur at the target location. The Palm Strike combo instead unleashes 3 lightning strikes at once. Causing a lightning strike grants 7% super energy outside of super. And this idea stems from the name Unstable Current, where your Arc Staff hits are so incredibly powerful when using this exotic they can cause lightning strikes to materialize as a result. And the neutral game portion would make for a good super spamming loop, giving you plenty of uptime on Arc Staff, kinda like how Geomag Stabilizers does for Chaos Reach. Moving on to yet another helmet, we have Skyburner's Annex. This exotic was more of a support piece which has the main perk Versatile Shooter, stating that heavy weapon kills have a chance to create orbs. Orbs collected when your super is full have a chance to grant special ammo, which to be honest isn't terribly exotic, so here's how I would change it into a more team support focused exotic that again meshes with the new ammo counter system from Edge of Fate. Scoring a heavy weapon kill greatly increases nearby ally special and heavy ammo meter fill progress for a short duration. Special and heavy bricks you collect are always double sized. This could act as a good alternative to Aeons, giving your whole team increased ammo counter progress, but not for yourself. However, you yourself do receive more ammo from your own bricks. Up next is the Don't Touch Me exotic gauntlets, and they simply made you invisible when receiving melee damage. Great for doing solo Abyss in Crota's End, but this was also back when invisibility was a trait associated with both Arc and Void elements. It was less clearly defined as an extension of the Void toolkit, so when bringing it into Destiny 2, I think being a little more loose could actually be for its benefit. My idea is to make it so taking damage from a melee attack grants a short period of Void invisibility. Weapon fire while invisible does not disrupt it, and weapon kills while invisible extend the duration of invisibility. And I would make it so this works on any subclass, it doesn't have to be Void. I think having weapons not disrupt invis would be a unique angle to take, especially when having weapon multi-kills extend the duration of it. It would certainly give rise to a unique playstyle that could be a lot of fun. Next we have the exotic chess piece, the ATS-8 Tarantella. This one made it so you take reduced arc damage from minions of the darkness, and your arc grenades and arc blade recharge faster, which again is kind of unimaginative. If I recall, I don't think it saw much use, so for Destiny 2 I would give it a total facelift and tailor it more towards the Storm's Edge super. My idea reads as follows. While the Storm's Edge super is equipped, super recharge rate is set to 0. Instead, Arc Ability Final Blows charge a meter that once full allows you to throw a single Storm's Edge dagger, and my idea for the meter would be just like Ionic Sentry, where it takes a certain number of points before it becomes ready. Then, once full, you can unleash a single Storm's Edge activation, but you can't use the super normally. It can only be used in this specific way. And yeah, I'd give it a short, maybe 10 to 15 second cooldown before you can do it again. Storm's Edge is such an awesome super that's criminally underutilized and underrepresented in terms of exotics, so I hope this idea at least sounds interesting to you. Moving on, we have the Crest of Alpha Lupi, and yes, Hunters and Warlocks both had this exotic as well as Titans in Destiny 1, and they all functioned exactly the same. You revive or are revived faster, and your super generates an additional orb per activation, which is also what it does in Destiny 2 for Titans, plus a small health bump when placing your barricade, so why don't we factor that in and just do a blanket rework for the current Titan version and the missing Hunter one as well. So I would make it so you still have the original effects, plus any orb you create is the highest quality possible for both you and your allies, meaning that even from a Siphon mod, weapon multi-kills will spawn a full strength orb of power, which also applies to the ones your allies see. So you can think of the person wearing Crest of Alpha Lupi as basically an orb factory who creates maximum potency orbs to support the team in regenerating their supers as quickly as they can. Finally, I have yet again left the best till last, and that is the Bones of Ao exotic boots, which simply granted you an extra jump, now giving you the ability to triple jump or use any of the more niche movement boosting jumps like strafe or high jump twice rather than once, which again was a very popular pick that I would love to see brought to Destiny 2 someday without any changes whatsoever. It would certainly give Stompies a run for its money when it comes to jumping puzzles in dungeons and raids. Now it's time to move on to our final section, Warlocks, beginning with Light Beyond Nemesis. Light Beyond Nemesis is an exotic helmet that was the Warlock answer to Crest of Alpha Lupi. Admittedly, it's kinda weird that they went with a helmet when both Titans and Hunters got a chest piece, but whatever. The rework I previously mentioned for the Hunter piece also applies here: more orbs per super, faster revives, and improved orb quality. Onto a different exotic now, we have Obsidian Mind, a helmet with the main perk Insatiable, which states that Nova Bomb kills reduce the cooldown of your next Nova Bomb, which for the most part has been rolled into the Destiny 2 version of Skull of Dire Ahamkara, so it has to be something different. And in my opinion, I think a cool change would be making Obsidian Mine to Nova Warp as Geomax Stabilizers is to Chaos Reach. And what I mean by that is collecting Void Breaches grants 7% Nova Warp energy. Void Weapon multi-kills spawn Void Breaches. So it's effectively the Void version of Geomags that pertains to Nova Warp rather than Nova Bomb, which could make for some fun super spam builds exactly like how we've seen this season with Arc Warlock. Besides the Stag, another animal-themed exotic helmet exists in Destiny 1, and that is the Ram, the iconic PvP Voidwalker helmet. This exotic gave you the trait Strength of the Ram, which read increased armor, all Voidwalker melees trigger lifesteal on hit. And lifesteal was a subclass node for your melee which allowed you to regain health on melee hits, which was kind of a precursor to Devour in a sense, and the Ram simply allowed you to have this property for free. So for Destiny 2, I want to take a similar approach that deals with healing and melee damage. So my version of the perk reads, melee kills grant resist ×2 for a brief duration, and final blows while Devour is active instead grant melee energy rather than grenade energy. If Feed the Void is equipped, the amount of melee energy is increased. My version of this exotic essentially flips Devour into a health and melee boosting tool rather than health and grenade, with a nice addition of resist ×2 from melee kills, which by the way is a 25% damage resistance. Perfect for any Lightning Surge spam prismatic builds, or if you really want to mess with Pocket Singularity for whatever reason. Next up we have the Impossible Machines, a pair of exotic gloves for Stormcaller Warlocks that granted the Landfall node for free. And because in Destiny 2 Landfall is baked into the base form of the Stormtrance Super, we're going to need to get creative, which is why my version reads like so. Modifies your Stormtrance Super into a single devastating landfall that deals massively increased damage, leaving behind a lightning storm that causes lightning bolts to strike at the target location for a moderate duration. So similar to Helm of Inmost Light for the Titan, we're again taking the one-off super approach, but this time with Stormtrance. Besides Chaos Reach, which is a weird hybrid between a roaming and one-off super, Arc Warlock doesn't have a true one-and-done super to use for DPS. So I think converting Stormtrance this way could make for some very damaged setups on both Arc and Prismatic, while also staying true to the original Destiny 1 version via the Landfall concept. Next is an exotic I totally forgot existed, and you'll soon come to know why, and that is the Alchemist Raiment exotic chest piece. And this thing has what I would just barely call a perk, let alone an exotic perk, Iron to Gold, which makes it so you have a chance to gain Glimmer on primary ammo pickup, and orbs collected when your super is full recharge grenades and melee. So this exotic has a chance to give you currency and also moderately improves grenade and melee regen. And I don't know about you, but this is really quite funny to me. I have no idea what Bungie was smoking when they made this, but it's certainly unique. No other exotic since this one has a direct synergy with the in-game currency system. I get what they were going for with the whole alchemy thing, but in practice it's just so bizarre. So in the case of this exotic, I want you to comment down below how you would change it to fit in an alchemy theme or just any other general way. On to the final three exotics now. We have the Heart of the Praxic Fire, a solar focused exotic chest piece with the main perk Praise the Sun that reads as follows. Further decreases all ability cooldowns while Radiance is active. And in Destiny 1, Radiance was the name given to what is now the Song of Flame super. They behave pretty identically and are only really differing in name. So naturally, the Destiny 2 version ought to focus on something related to Song of Flame. So my version would read like so. Further decreases grenade, melee and class ability cooldowns while in your Song of Flame, and Song of Flame lasts longer at the cost of reduced survivability. While Song of Flame is active, hitting an enemy with either your grenade or melee ability weakens them. So we take the original Destiny 1 perk but also add in the weakening aspect, and this wouldn't be the standard Void Weaken. Instead, it would be the unique Solar Weaken provided by the Viking Funeral subclass node from Destiny 1, which I believe was a 15% unique debuff that stacked with all other debuffs except Tether if memory serves. So having a player running this exotic in Destiny 2 would only help to improve the team's damage even more in a raid or dungeon scenario. However, all of this is at the cost of a heavily reduced damage negation, since currently Song of Flame has a 90% DR while active, so I would reduce this down to 20 or 25% to balance it out. Next we have the Purifier Robes, the only exotic that modified your self-res capability as a Solar Warlock. And yes, if you didn't know, Solar Warlocks could self-res in Destiny 1 by selecting the Fireborn subclass node, which allowed them to activate Radiance after having died. And Purifier Robes made it so activating Radiance from death disorients nearby enemies, and by that it meant a very bright flash occurred when a Warlock self-resed in front of you, which was solely meant for PvP purposes, because in PvE it wasn't really a necessary addition. So for Destiny 2, I'm gonna go a little crazy here and say that Purifier Robes should make it so your Song of Flame super can be activated activated from beyond the grave, but only lasts for 5 seconds if cast in this way. Because to be honest, I don't think it would actually be that broken. Perhaps in PvP it might be a little annoying, but just like in Destiny 1, the quickest solution is to snipe that pesky Warlock in the head mid-animation as if it never happened. And in PvE, it'll only make certain challenge content like solos and lowman slightly more forgiving. Plus, in a raid scenario, you're forced into using your super, which is inconvenient if you are wanting to save it, for example. Or you could go the boring route and just have it so activating Song of Flame creates a disorienting burst in a large radius or something, but come on man, it's self-res. It's a Warlock trademark and it would be awesome to see it return. Closing out with the 24th exotic armor piece, we have the Voidfang Vestments exotic chest piece. This exotic focuses on the Voidwalker subclass and has the main perk Hungering Void, which states that you spawn with full grenade energy and your Axiom Bolt grenade spawns an additional seeker. So clearly the Destiny 2 version has to be Void related and have something to do with Axiom Bolts. So let me present to you the new and improved perk Annihilation, which reads like so. Gain a second Axiom Bolt charge. Your Axiom Bolt grenades seek out active Child of the Old Gods, and upon contact, both of them detonate into a massive void explosion that applies volatile, weaken, and suppression. My idea for this was inspired by real-life matter-antimatter annihilations, and given that Void is all about explosions and unstable matter and so on and so forth, this perk sounds just right to me, and because Child of the Old Gods is literally a miniature black hole, it makes perfect sense thematically that with enough force, something ought to make it explode, and that something is our Axiom Bolt grenades. I liken the size and visual flair of the explosion to that of a Zealous Bane enemy being defeated, perhaps with a slightly toned down radius, but basically that, which would make for a super fun Void Warlock setup. And there we have it, that's how I would redesign every single one of the 24 missing exotic armor pieces from Destiny 1 into Destiny 2. If you made it this far into the video, you can let me know by commenting Gary down in the comments below and I'll give you a love heart. And while you're there, please do let me know if you'd like to see more of these creative videos on the channel, since for the next 7 weeks or so there really isn't that much going on in Destiny, so any feedback or support is greatly appreciated. I also want to give a huge shout out to Court Projects as he helped me proof these ideas and provided some solid insight of his own, so thank you Court, much appreciated. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now, dear viewer.